In 1902, a psychologist, not a priest, published a book that did the impossible. Atheists read it and started praying. Broken people read it and found hope. Even Sigmund Freud called it a masterpiece. William James called it the Varieties of Religious Experience. And it all started with one question he asked the world. Is God real? Or is he just the most powerful feeling a human can have? Tonight, in Part 19, the stories of drunkards, dying men, and lost souls who suddenly felt God. How William James used science to prove spiritual experiences are real. And why this book is still the #1 guide for millions searching for meaning today. Stay until the end, because the last story will give you chills and hope at the same time. By this point in his career, William James had fully matured as a psychologist, philosopher, and educator. His work reflected a balance between empirical observation, philosophical reflection, and practical guidance. He was widely recognized for his ability to communicate complex ideas clearly and for demonstrating how the study of the mind could have meaningful applications in education, personal development, and moral life. This stage of his career marked the consolidation of his most important contributions. Consciousness remained central to his research and writing. William James emphasized the continuous, flowing, and adaptive nature of mental life. He explored how thoughts, feelings, and perceptions form an integrated stream, influenced by attention, memory, and emotion. Attention allowed individuals to focus on relevant stimuli, while memory reconstructed past experiences in ways shaped by habit and context. He highlighted the role of emotion in guiding perception, decision-making, and behavior. This dynamic view of consciousness became a cornerstone of modern psychology and philosophy, emphasizing the importance of understanding mental processes as integrated, adaptive, and purposeful. Habit continued to be a key topic. William examined how repeated behaviors shape character, guide thought, and influence moral decisions. He stressed that cultivating positive habits and modifying harmful ones requires conscious effort, reflection, and practice. Habit, he argued, bridges psychological understanding and ethical action, showing that the study of human behavior has direct implications for personal and moral development. His insights offered practical guidance for education, self-discipline, and life management. Emotion was studied deeply during this period. William investigated the complex interaction between emotion and cognition, showing how feelings influence attention, memory, perception, and decision-making. He considered both the physiological and psychological aspects of emotion, demonstrating that emotional experience is a core component of consciousness. By integrating emotion with cognition, he developed a holistic understanding of human behavior, emphasizing that rational thought and emotional experience are inseparable in guiding decisions, actions, and moral judgment. Attention and memory were examined systematically. Williams studied how attention selects relevant information, how it is guided by past experiences and habits, and how memory actively reconstructs events. These processes were not merely passive but adaptive, helping individuals respond to challenges, solve problems, and navigate complex environments. By combining empirical observation with philosophical reflection, William provided a framework for understanding cognition that was both scientifically rigorous and practically meaningful. Philosophy continued to serve as a guiding framework. William engaged with classical and contemporary thinkers to explore questions of knowledge, morality, and consciousness. Philosophy allowed him to contextualize empirical findings, understand their broader implications, and connect psychological observations to larger human concerns. This integration of philosophy and psychology ensured that his work remained both conceptually rich and applicable to real-life situations, reinforcing the value of interdisciplinary inquiry. Social observation remained central to his approach. Williams studied the influence of culture, education, and societal norms on thought, habit, and behavior. He examined how people respond to authority, peer influence, and social expectations. These studies reinforced his view that human behavior emerges from a complex interplay of personal disposition, habit, and environmental context. Such insights informed his contributions to applied psychology, education, and ethics, emphasizing that the study of the mind is inseparable from the study of society. Artistic sensitivity continued to enrich his work. Williams' ability to notice subtle gestures, expressions, and tonal differences allowed him to communicate the nuances of consciousness and emotion with clarity and precision. This sensitivity complemented his experimental methods and philosophical analysis, producing writings that were scientifically accurate, empathetic, and engaging. By combining artistic insight with empirical research, he enhanced the accessibility and depth of his ideas. Practical application remained a guiding principle. William James believed that psychological knowledge should inform education, guide personal development, and support ethical living. His pragmatic philosophy emphasized that ideas are valuable, not only for their truth but also for their usefulness. Knowledge, he argued, is most meaningful when it helps individuals understand themselves, make better decisions, and improve their lives and communities. By the end of this stage, William James had solidified a comprehensive approach to psychology that integrated consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, social observation, philosophical reflection, and practical application. These achievements provided the foundation for his seminal works and established him as a pioneering thinker whose influence would shape psychology, philosophy, and education for generations. Page 7 of Chapter 4 highlights his mature thought, demonstrating how his empirical, philosophical, and practical insights combined to create a holistic understanding of the human mind. At this stage of his career, William James had become a central figure in American psychology and philosophy. His writings, lectures, and teachings reflected a comprehensive vision of the mind, integrating scientific research, philosophical reflection, artistic insight, and practical application. He continued to develop his ideas on consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, and social behavior, demonstrating how understanding the mind could improve education, personal growth, and moral life. Consciousness remained the cornerstone of his work. William James emphasized its continuous and dynamic nature, noting that thoughts, feelings, and perceptions form a flowing stream rather than isolated elements. Attention, he observed, selects what is relevant, while memory reconstructs past experiences based on habit, emotion, and context. Emotions and desires guide thought and action, influencing decision-making and behavior. This holistic view of consciousness became foundational for modern psychology, demonstrating that mental processes are interconnected, adaptive, and purposeful. Habit continued to be a primary focus. Williams studied how repeated behaviors shape character, thought patterns, and moral judgment. He stressed that conscious effort is required to cultivate beneficial habits and reduce harmful ones. Habit serves as a bridge between understanding the mind and guiding ethical behavior. By applying his insights on habit formation, William provided practical advice for personal development, self-discipline, and education, showing that psychology could have direct, positive effects on everyday life. Emotion was explored with great depth. William examined the interplay between feelings and cognition, showing how emotions influence attention, memory, and perception. He emphasized that emotional experience is not separate from rational thought but is integrated into the conscious stream. Understanding emotions was essential for guiding behavior, making moral decisions, and improving personal and social life. By combining physiological, psychological, and practical perspectives, William developed a complete view of human emotion and its role in thought and action. Attention and memory remained key areas of research. William investigated how attention focuses on what is significant, how past experiences and habits shape attention, and how memory reconstructs rather than merely records experience. These processes are active, adaptive, and essential for learning, problem-solving, and decision-making. By studying these functions systematically, William provided insights that were both scientifically rigorous and practically applicable in education, personal growth, and moral development. Philosophy continued to guide his understanding. William engaged with classical and contemporary thinkers to explore questions of knowledge, morality, and the nature of consciousness. Philosophy provided a framework for interpreting empirical findings and connecting them to broader human concerns. By integrating philosophical reflection with experimental study, he ensured that his work was intellectually rigorous while remaining relevant to practical life. This approach reinforced the importance of combining theory and practice in understanding the human mind. Social observation remained essential. William examined how culture, social norms, and education influence thought, habit, and behavior. He observed how people respond to authority, peer pressure, and societal expectations. These studies demonstrated that human behavior emerges from the interaction between internal disposition, habit, and external context. Understanding these social dimensions was crucial for his contributions to applied psychology, education, and ethical guidance, emphasizing the importance of considering both individual and societal influences. Artistic sensitivity enriched his work. William's attention to subtle gestures, expressions, and tonal nuances allowed him to describe mental and emotional processes with clarity and depth. This skill complemented his scientific observation and philosophical analysis, making his writings precise, engaging, and accessible. By integrating artistic insight with research, William enhanced the communication of complex ideas and ensured that his work appealed to scholars and general readers alike. Practical application remained central to his philosophy. William James emphasized that psychological knowledge should inform education, personal development, and ethical living. His pragmatic approach evaluated ideas based on both their truth and usefulness, demonstrating that knowledge is most meaningful when it helps individuals understand themselves, make better decisions, and improve their lives and communities. This principle guided his research, writing, and teaching throughout his career. By the end of this stage, William James had fully developed a mature, holistic approach to psychology. He integrated consciousness, habit, emotion, attention, social observation, philosophical reflection, and practical guidance into a comprehensive framework for understanding the mind. These achievements formed the foundation for the principles of psychology and other major works, establishing him as a pioneering figure whose influence would endure in psychology, philosophy, and education. Chapter 4 highlights his holistic vision and the continued integration of scientific, philosophical and practical insights in his work. The Varieties of Religious Experience became the most important book on spirituality ever written by a scientist. But William James's own life was about to take a dark turn. In part 20, you'll see his final battle with heart disease, the heartbreaking goodbye letter to his family, and the one sentence on his grave that still saves lives every day. Part 20 tomorrow, 8 p.m. sharp. Subscribe plus bell on. The end is coming.